The job may end on a date, September 28th, 2025, for me, but identity doesn't always follow the same timeline. And we're going to get into it in this episode when identity lingers longer than the job. This is episode 4 in the Retirement Grief Wholeness in the In Between series. And I'm excited to get into it.
Welcome back to Purpose Over Paycheck with your host, Dr. Lisa. The Midlife Reinvention Movement for women 50 and above, rising in faith, walking in freedom, living in flow, flourishing in every God-designed season. Here is where we shift beliefs, we elevate purpose, and of course, we step boldly into our next chapter. What is this? This is Purpose Over.
Okay, so we're going to get into it. I like to call it identity residue. Identity residue and integration. When you leave a role, when we leave a role that we've held for years, sometimes decades, the title may disappear from our email signature, but it doesn't disappear from our nervous system. Let me repeat that again for the folks in the back. When we leave a role we held for years, sometimes even decades, the title may disappear from our email signature, but it doesn't disappear from our nervous system. Identity lingers. And our nervous system holds on to that identity for some time. I'm here to tell you, because nobody told me. So that is not a secret, and you won't be surprised. That it's in your nervous system. It's in somewhat like in your DNA. It's how you showed up every day for years, for decades. And to wake up one day and it no longer exists externally, something that you've embodied for years or decades, baby, let me tell you. You may still think in terms of responsibility, still feel accountable for outcomes you no longer control, still measure your worth by usefulness, competence, or being needed. Now, I'm a mom of two young adults. They're in their 30s, right? I'll never stop being a mom. I don't care how old they get, right? They're my children. Now, because they're adults at this stage, am I parenting them like I did when they were 3 or 5 or 10 or still in school or still under my roof? Absolutely not. How we engage with one another, our conversations, and how we exist now is very different than when they were younger. But my identity remains the same in that I am their mother. When it comes to leaving a job, we are no longer an employee. We were an employee for a long time. We're no longer responsible for those outcomes. We're not on their payroll anymore. So we have to let go of that identity. This, you this isn't because you're stuck. Let me make that clear. It's not because you're stuck. We were just in a routine for so long. It's because that identity was layered over time. I love HGTV and watching home renovation shows and builds and things like that. Absolutely love it, right? So look at it, think about it in terms of this, like a visual. When they go in and redo a kitchen, because kitchens cost, right? Kitchens, people buy houses. I've bought houses for kitchens, right? So they go into a kitchen and they don't like it. They want to redo it, and they have a vision in their mind of what this kitchen looks like. Great, got a vision, got a cost estimate, wonderful. But when they start going in to pull up the floor, or to pull cabinets off the walls, you can see layers. Oftentimes on the shows, you see there were layers of floor. The flooring changed over years. Layers of paint on the cabinet or paint on the walls, layers built over time. So before anything new can be erected, before the new vision that you have for that kitchen or those individuals have for that kitchen, before that new vision can materialize, all those old layers have to go. They have to be acknowledged that they exist, and they have to be torn away. They have to be dealt with, right? Or else the new version of the kitchen will not be manifested. That's what happens in the retirement grief phase when we're looking at the identity residue and when the identity lingers longer than the job. It's those layers. For many of us, work wasn't just what we did, it was where we contributed, where we were recognized, where our strengths were affirmed. I don't know about you, I wasn't always recognized as a parent. I feel like there's a stage raising two children, right? There's a stage where the kids really don't appreciate mom very much, right? And recognize mom very much. It's not until later on that happens. But in the work environment, we were recognized, we were acknowledged, we contributed, and our salaries were commensurate with that in most cases, right? So when the job ends, the identity doesn't just poof, evaporate. It waits. Ooh, does it wait? Not to trap you, not to trap us, but it waits to be integrated, embodied. Wholeness doesn't require you to erase who you were. It doesn't require erasure. It asks us to release exclusivity. Ooh, how about that? Wholeness requires us to erase exclusivity. And what does that look like? I was a mom while I was working. I was a mom while I was doing church work. I was a mom. All of these things coexisted, right? I wasn't exclusively a mom. I wasn't exclusively an employee. That's not wholeness. That wasn't the whole entirety of who I was. You are more than the role you played in your workplace. And the qualities that made you effective then are not lost today. Ooh, they're simply looking for new expressions. Ooh, this is when it gets good. When identity lingers longer than the job, it's not a sign that you're behind. It's a sign that your life deserves thoughtful integration. If who you are, who you were in the workplace, and how you showed up, and those knowledge, skills, and abilities are still wanting to be used, they can still be used. But now you get to ask the question where, when, how long? Yes. Ooh, that's the faith. That's the freedom. That's the flow and the flourishing. You're still all of those things. You still a bad girl. You still have all those gifts and talents. But how can you integrate them now? In what way do you want to that would bring you joy? Let me invite you into this reflection. In the comments, answer this gently. What part of your former identity still shows up even now? Because that's saying something. What part of your former identity still shows up now? A habit, a way of thinking, a sense of responsibility. And if this resonates, subscribe because integrating identity takes time, not pressure. And that's what I'm here to help you do. Before we close, you know what I like to do. Let me leave you with a blessing. May you release the pressure to redefine yourself overnight. May you trust that identity integrates at its own pace. May your faith remind you that who you are has always been more than what you did. May your freedom include patience with yourself. May your flow teach you how to carry your strengths forward without being confined by them. And may you remember when identity lingers longer than the job, it's not a setback, it's an invitation to wholeness. Midlife it really isn't a crisis. It's an invitation to reinvention. We're still here, we're still rising, and we are making our next chapter the best one yet. Faith, freedom, flow, flourishing. All of this is 50 plus reinvented.